There is a moment, a specific, measurable biological moment. It happens right before you stop, right before you put the pen down, close the tab, walk away from the thing you said you wanted. It doesn't feel like a decision. It feels like the truth. That is exactly what makes it so dangerous. Your brain, in the seconds before you give up, does something researchers spent decades trying to understand. It doesn't shut down, it doesn't go quiet, it fires hard. A cascade of neural signals ripples through your prefrontal cortex, your anterior cingulate cortex, your dopamine pathways, and in that cascade something gets rewritten, not just for today, for the next time you try. This is the story of what giving up actually does to your brain, and why the moment you stop might be the most consequential moment of your entire attempt. You have probably felt it. You are working towards something, a goal, a habit, a project that matters to you. The early days feel good. There is novelty, there is possibility. Your brain is releasing dopamine not because you have succeeded, but because you might. Neuroscientist Wolfram Schultz spent years mapping this. He called it the prediction error signal. Your brain fires dopamine in anticipation of reward, not just in response to it. You are not chasing what you have. You are chasing what your brain believes is coming. Then something happens. Progress slows. The feedback disappears. The gap between where you are and where you thought you would be becomes visible, and the dopamine signal, that forward-pulling chemical optimism, begins to drop. This is the dip. Almost everyone knows it is coming. Almost no one understands what is actually happening inside it. In 2007, researchers at Stanford published a study that tracked brain activity during repeated failure. What they found surprised almost everyone who read it. When subjects encountered failure after genuine effort, a specific region lit up, the anterior cingulate cortex. This region is responsible for conflict monitoring. It is constantly scanning for a mismatch between what you expected and what is actually happening. When the mismatch becomes large enough, it sends a signal that neuroscientists have since come to call the error signal. Your brain is not telling you that you failed. It is telling you that something needs to change. That signal is supposed to trigger adaptation, a recalibration, a new approach. But here is what no one tells you. If you quit at the exact moment that signal fires, your brain does not log it as adaptation. It logs it as resolution. The tension is gone. The conflict monitoring system relaxes, and it files that moment away as evidence. Evidence that leaving was the answer. Your brain is a prediction machine. Its entire job is to model the future based on the past. Every time you give up, you are not just ending one attempt. You are updating the model. You are teaching your brain what to expect from situations that feel like this one. Psychologist Martin Seligman spent years documenting this process. He called it learned helplessness. In his original experiments, animals exposed to inescapable negative stimuli eventually stopped trying to escape, even when escape became possible. They had learned at a biological level that effort was pointless. Seligman later extended this framework to humans. The same mechanism operates in you, not because you are weak, because your brain is doing exactly what it was built to do. It is being efficient. It is learning from experience. The problem is that it cannot tell the difference between giving up because something was truly impossible and giving up because something was uncomfortable. To your brain, both feel the same, and both get filed under the same category. When it feels like this, stop. Now here is where it gets stranger. When you give up, your brain does not go neutral. It goes cold. The dopamine that was fueling your anticipation does not just disappear, it inverts. Researchers at the University of Michigan found that withdrawal from anticipated reward produces a signal almost chemically identical to loss. Your brain experiences giving up not as rest, it experiences it as grief. A muted, low-grade grief that most people never name because it does not come with a clear cause. That heaviness you feel after quitting something you cared about, that is not laziness, that is a neurological loss response. Your brain is mourning the future it had already started to build. And yet you keep quitting, not because you want to, because the alternative, continuing, requires something your brain finds extraordinarily expensive. Sustained voluntary effort against resistance is one of the most metabolically costly things a human brain can do. The prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for executive function, goal maintenance, and long-term planning, consumes glucose at a rate that the rest of the brain cannot match. When your resources are low, when your sleep is poor, when your stress is high, the prefrontal cortex is the first system to be rationed. This is why giving up feels easier at the end of a long day. It is not a moral failure. It is a resource management decision your brain is making without your permission. Amy Arnston at Yale has spent decades studying this. She found that even moderate stress causes measurable degradation in prefrontal cortex function. The circuitry responsible for keeping you on track weakens under pressure. And what fills the vacuum? Older, faster, more automatic systems. Systems that prioritize comfort. Systems that prefer the familiar over the difficult. Systems that have a very simple rule: if it hurts, stop. So you are not weak. You are running on ancient hardware in a world that requires something your ancestors never had to do: delay reward indefinitely while tolerating sustained discomfort in pursuit of abstract future goals. No creature in the history of evolution was ever asked to do that. Your brain was not built for it. But here is the part that changes everything. The moment of giving up is not fixed. It is not a biological wall. It is a threshold. And that threshold is not set by your talent, your intelligence, or your genetics. It is set by your history of crossing it. Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck spent decades studying what separates people who persist from people who quit. Her research on growth mindset revealed something that sounds simple but goes deep. People who believe ability is fixed quit when they encounter evidence of limitation. People who believe ability is changeable experience the same evidence differently, not as proof that they cannot, as information about what to try next. The threshold for giving up is not fixed because the brain is not fixed. Every time you push past the moment that would have stopped you before, you are physically remodeling your neural circuitry. The anterior cingulate cortex grows denser in people who persist through difficulty. The connection between the prefrontal cortex and the limbic system, the connection that allows rational goals to override immediate discomfort, strengthens with use. You are not just building discipline, you are rebuilding the architecture. And the reverse is also true. Every time you stop at the threshold gets lower, not because you are getting weaker, because your brain is getting more efficient at the behavior you keep practicing. Quitting is a skill. Persistence is a skill. Whichever one you train is the one that becomes automatic. There is one more thing, something researchers only started documenting in the last decade. It concerns what happens in the first few seconds after the moment of giving up, the window most people never study because they assume it is already over. In that window, your brain is still plastic. The error signal is still firing. The conflict has not fully resolved. Neuroscientist Andrew Huberman has described this as the physiological window of reconsideration, a brief period, sometimes as short as 3 to 5 seconds, where the brain has not yet committed to the quit, where returning to the task still feels possible without the full cost of re-engaging from scratch. Most people never use that window. They assume the decision was made the moment they stopped, but the decision is not made when you stop. It is made when you stay stopped. And in between those two moments, there is a gap, a real biological gap, where something different is still possible. Tonight or tomorrow or sometime soon, you will hit the moment. You will feel it, the tension, the pull toward the exit, the quiet certainty that stopping makes sense. Your brain will have good reasons. It always does. It will feel less like a choice and more like the truth. But now you know something about that moment that you did not know before. You know what is firing. You know what is being written. You know that the moment right before you stop is not the end of the attempt. It might be the most important moment of the entire thing. What you do in the next 3 seconds is the whole story.